Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to day 4 of Level Up here with Deakin University. It's been a fantastic week of personal development, and today's only going to get better. My name is Pete Williams, and I'm here with 3 fantastic alumni to talk all about partnerships, how to create partnerships, how to get the most out of them, and everything in between. So let's kick things off with some introductions, shall we?
Sure. Hello, I'm Samira Aduru. I work as a strategic advisor for engagement, partnerships, and also government relations. I work in community and social services sector, and I work across Victoria and regional areas of it. Yeah,
Fantastic.
Australia.
Lots to unpack about local government and council partnerships. Fantastic.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone. This is Sandeep. I'm a serial entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, and I'm also a founder for Magsmen Strategy Consultants, where we work with brands and celebrities in building their brands across multiple horizons.
Brilliant. And Roxy?
Well, I'm Roxy Bennett. Before I go any further, I actually was the president of the Deakin University Students Association back in 1984, kind of giving my age away a little bit there. So that's sort of my cred. But I now work in strategic engagement and partnerships with Leisure Networks, a disability service provider based in Geelong, but operating across Victoria.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, I think it's going to be a really good conversation because we've got councils, corporate, not-for-profit. We've got a nice eclectic mix of sort of all things. So to kind of frame the conversation, I think we should probably start with what is a partnership in everyone's eyes, because there's so many different types of partnerships and how they can be structured, short-term, long-term, transactional, relationship-wise. Let's try and unpack that a little bit before we get into the how-to. So Roxy, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, because I've mostly worked either in the not-for-profit sector or I've worked in a corporate environment where I've worked with the not-for-profit sector, to me, the partnership is all about 2 organisations with a shared value maybe, but also a shared vision of what they want the partnership to gain at the end of it, or if it's ongoing. But it is about having that shared vision of what the future should look like for both.
Amazing. We'll definitely unpack that a bit more, I think.
Perfect. I mean, I have a different perspective on partnership. So when two people start working together internally, their partnership differs the same. But when people come together to build an idea, that's where the partnership changes. It is not just about having the ideological matching. It is also about understanding what the consequences are and how am I going to see the person when the consequence comes.
Yeah.
Because if the consequence matters or if the shared vision matters, is something that you have to understand yourself. And that's how the partnership becomes more stronger.
Yeah, I like that.
Perfect. For me, I guess partnerships, it's more about sustainability and impact creation. It's really important for me because we live in a world where there's constantly restructures happening. There's a lot of fundings, and the priority community groups that we work for, they constantly need support all the time. So for me, partnerships is a way forward for it's a sustainable approach for me.
Yeah, amazing. So obviously there's very different approaches to partnerships, but I think they all kind of seed from an idea somewhere. Someone has an idea for, let's do this, let's try and create this commercial relationship, let's solve this problem, let's do something in between. So when you are sort of at that first ideation stage of trying to figure out what does a partnership possibility look like, where do we start? How do we actually kind of unpack who could be the right partner? How do we find the partners? How do we kind of start there and build? Anyone want
to? So it all starts. First, you have to question yourself whether are you right for the partnership or not? Are you at the right time for the partnership or not? Because it is not just about having the right partner or a particular partner to build your idea.
Yep.
It is also about preparing yourself to have a shared mindset inside the room.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is, for example, let's take Pixar. So Pixar have made one bad film in the last 30 years. You know, there's something called brain trust in their internal operating principle.
Yep.
The director who shoots the movie, he doesn't see the movie. The other director brings their creative perspectives, builds the best movie out of it. And that's how they prepared themselves. Every partnership starts with yourself personally, and then it goes out.
Mm-hmm. So how do we know if we need a partnership? How do we know if we've got an idea, whether we're going to, just try and run with that idea ourselves and try and solve it internally versus going to someone to actually partner with to solve or create?
I think certainly from a not-for-profit perspective, partnerships are crucial to being able to operate because we simply can't be everything, all things to all people. So we need to partner And often it can be with corporates, but it can also be with other organisations, like-minded organisations. And I think those partnerships work really well when you maybe don't have the same commercial imperatives. So you mightn't have the same customer, for example,
Yep.
but you do have the same desire for impact. You mentioned that, Samira. So it's about finding those partners, people who are going to share, or organisations who are going to share that with you. But if you go for the wrong one, then you're pushing it uphill. Like, there's no way it's going to work, is it?
Correct.
So you've got to be really selective about who your partner is and make sure that you're sharing the same idea of what success looks like.
Yeah. So how do you unpack that? Because I think that was the perfect articulation is what does success look like? So it's almost like having that hard conversation up front. Once you kind of maybe have that relationship or in a dialogue about what could this look like, how do you get comfortable being uncomfortable? Having the conversation around how are we aligned on this? How are we values? Like what happens if this goes wrong? How do you have those tough conversations early enough so you don't waste time and energy going down the wrong path?
See, for me, I guess from past 8 years, I had many successes and failures in partnerships. It all started when I understood the ecosystem and the intersectionality of services. It never was just me going in, trying to work with the service and trying to figure out what they can bring and what I can bring. It's all about targeting the right people in the organization who have the portfolios, understanding the vision, as Lexi said before, and understanding what they can bring into the table and what we have been and what is our strategic plan. So always doing a lot of desktop research has helped me to lead that conversation, and also majorly talking to more leadership and decision makers have helped me to progress faster than hold me back, because I understand operations staff have more understanding. And I think in failure's point of view as well, sometimes the leadership has no idea where the partnership should sit as well. So they have to have more conversation with operational staff who have more understanding within the service delivery area. So,
Okay. So something you said, I think was really interesting, at least for me, was that desktop research element you said. Because I think, going into a partnership, it's really important to see where there is alignment. So that desktop research is you're looking at a company or organization's website, trying to find their strategic plan, trying to figure out where they're going to ensure there is alignment. And I'm assuming also doing that research also helps the conversation that you can go into the negotiation or whatever you want to frame that conversation as, whether it's doing a deal or a negotiation. We can argue the definitions, but having that understanding of them, not just what my objectives are, but what's the other side's objectives, what are they trying to work towards, helps you frame that conversation of A, selection, but B, deal making. Is that fair?
It's all about data collection, I guess. You can't go without data, and having understanding of which communities they're serving or the demographics of the service itself have helped me a lot by giving them the facts and talking to them that this is what you're lacking for and this is what I can bring you. And this is where we could have a mutual benefit.
I like data collection as a term. I think I think so many people, when they think about doing partnerships, it's all about, I'm in the room, how do I do a deal? How do I be like that Hollywood star and use linguistics in a way to kind of like say a certain thing to get the deal? And it's like, well, actually a lot of it's done beforehand, actually doing the work, putting in that effort, doing that desk research. What's your experience, Roxy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you need to understand that whoever it is that you're approaching is going to have a strategic vision that fits into what you're trying to achieve. I'm very much of the mind that any partnership, there is a quid pro quo. There might be a partnership, particularly in not-for-profit, where you might have a corporate who's giving dollars. But what can we as an organisation give back of equal value, maybe even more, and be able to quantify that and show that it's going to then help them towards their strategic vision. So understanding that is really important. Like I had a meeting with Deakin this week, and we were talking about exactly that, the strategic vision for Deakin, the strategic intent of our organisation, and how that intersectionality occurred. And I think if you can get that right, that's the magic.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is there's two parts of here. There's obviously doing that data research and that desktop analysis to figure out, well, where is that company heading? But it's also doing something that we talk about when we teach strategic deal making in class, is this thing called an asset audit, which is sort of something you touched on in terms of spending time going, what do we have that we can add value with? It's like, especially as a not-for-profit, you can't necessarily bring commercials, but you might be able to bring brand awareness or access to a community or, whatever it might be. There is assets that everyone has, whether it's they're trying to, negotiate for a partnership in terms of a small deal, or an influencer trying to do a partnership on their Instagram channel or their Snapchat or whatever it might be, or larger organizations. There's always something that you can bring, or a range of things. And I think a lot of people forget that as you go into partnerships, do that asset audit of what's everything we have available. What connections do I have? What network do I have? What people do I know that I can actually bring to this deal and this partnership beyond just what's surface level?
Yeah.
In a way, it's like really good business development, which is pretty much your wheelhouse, obviously, Pete, but it is, isn't it? What do we have and what do you have? What could you use of ours and what can we use of yours?
And most of the times, when we talk about finding a good partner, it always starts with an intent.
Yeah.
It's not just an ideology, it always starts with an intent. And as you rightly asked, are we going to talk about the serious questions in the beginning itself? No. None of the partnerships doesn't start like that. They start with a handshake, they start with an agreement, they start with understanding the positive parameters of how we're going to head forward. But people who talk the negative factors first, the consequences first, stay for a very longer time. But I don't think none of them would have the capability of understanding the consequences way forward if they don't have an experience.
Don't ask marriage straight away. Just start with a couple of dates.
Please take me out for dinner.
So, particularly in your world, Sandeep, in terms of doing brand deals and things like that, I'm really interested to think about if you're working with a company who's wants to do a brand deal, or a celebrity who wants to do a brand deal. We'll talk very tangible. How do you go about actually opening the door? Because I think for a lot of people, you might have an idea of, I'd love to partner with, and I'll throw this to everyone, whether it's I want to partner with a charity because I don't want to greenwash, but we want to sort of do some brand and alignment. Maybe I'm trying to do a celebrity kind of deal, or I want to work with local council and actually try and, get some partnership with local government or whatever it might be. How do we go about opening the door? Like, how have we all found in various case studies or examples of like, how do we get that first meeting? Because I think for a lot of people, the partnership can be visioned on a whiteboard, but how do we open the door?
I mean, when you're on top, things get more easy.
Well, of course.
Thanks for that.
Okay, so just wait 10 years, then we all
So as you mentioned the right point. So it's always tough to match the brand and the celebrity on the right point, because you need to understand who your customer is, what your customer wants first, and then get them what they need. And most people fail here because they don't know what customers want.
Or they assume.
They assume.
That's back to that data, that desktop analysis, that data collection. But what about in terms of actually doing deals? Is it a matter of like literally getting out there and getting the confidence post-COVID and going to networking events? Is LinkedIn working, or is that kind of just spam central these days? Is it most deals are done through network, so it's important to invest in your people? Like, how are we actually finding doors are open?
I think one of the things that's really interesting, and I reckon you guys will agree with me, there can be the person with the right title, but they're not necessarily the person you need to be speaking to. So the relationship element, and it is networking, but it's networking not in a sell kind of way, but it's networking in an authentic kind of getting to know people, a relationship building kind of way. And so, for example, it's being able to say, well, I don't know the person with the right title, but I do know this person. They'll know who the right person is. And it's being able to leverage those relationships and knowing that the relationship you've built is a trusted one where they're happy to send you in the right direction. So that's about being a good, authentic, decent person.
Like for me, I guess it's more about persistence and being there, showing up constantly have helped me a lot. Like even it's 3 hours away from my home, I still show up. I think being there in a room and having that direct conversation with them have helped me to build that relationship. Even after 10 years, they know who I am. Even I change companies, they know what kind of impact I have created. I think that's how the partnership leaders should come forward to, because it's all about networking, being in the right platform, never saying no to an opportunity. That have helped me a lot to succeed in my career, is just being there and showing up. Even, I've been in rooms where I've been judged because of my migrant, being from a migrant background, or I don't have that head or a title of a CEO, but still I showed up and been in a room where it was quite uncomfortable for me, but I voiced my situation, voiced my perspectives, why I'm there and why this impact is important for me.
Amazing. It's back to feeling comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
In a way, though, that's a bit different from your perspective.
I don't know if you guys agree with me or not. 90% of the people doesn't even know how to do networking.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
The rest, the rest 10% just know how to leverage it. And when we talk about networking in partnership, there's an alumni who have reached out to me on LinkedIn back when on 2024. He said, I saw you getting an alumni award and I've seen your profile. We want to partner with you. I said, why? I asked him why. Just because I have a title, as she rightly said, just because I have a title, I have a background of company, doesn't mean that you can get to partner with me. There's a whole bunch of networking that has to happen. A transaction happens only through a strong relationship. That's what I strongly believe in. On top,
couldn't agree more.
it is always alone on top. When you have the right people, it is not alone.
Yeah. Relationship building is so important. And I think the trouble with that is it's hard to quantify how to find somebody who's a good relationship builder. It's how do you do that? And I'm not sure how much of that you can learn. I know the stuff that you do, that you teach, Pete, like it's giving you the mechanics, but it's about having the personality that's going to be able to build the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things we talk about a lot is this idea of lottery tickets. That every person in your relationship's a lottery ticket. You don't know which one's going to pay off, and the more tickets the more tickets in a lottery, the more chance of having a win.
Yeah.
So like that's what we talk about in class in different situations is how do we just go and collect lottery tickets? It kind of takes the pressure off this whole I've got to build a relationship, and I've got to be charismatic, I've got to be confident, I've got to add great value up front. It's like no, just build a portfolio of lottery tickets because you never know when one might pay out.
I'll give you a good example. Like when I went to rural Victoria, initially I only focused on for a year straight to build relationships. And we never went in an intention that we want to solve a problem. We only went in intention, let me build a relationship with the right people in the room. And I have built relationship with all the decision makers around the region. And all of a sudden, some kind of an issue showed up about childcare services. And we went to each person who I built relationship with. And I said, can you sponsor some money or can you give out some space for us to have a childcare center who are ineligible? So through that kind of partnerships, we have built like 6 partners together. It's not like only 2 partners. It's like 6 organizations,
I love that.
different sectors,
Bringing different
intentions, visions. They all come together, put some, like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like they're kind of donating some kind of things that they have within their organization. Assets.
Some sort of assets.
And it's running successfully. It's been 4 years. I think I've spent $10,000 from my budget. There's no more funding coming in, but it's been 4 years. It's running successfully. Mothers are coming, joining, and we have like a play group that started with 5 people. Now it's more than 45 people.
Wow.
Incredible.
And everyone is ineligible for childcare services or early education services, but they have come together because the community decided that we have a problem and someone needs to do something. And they reached out to the right person. And we had built relationships. We brought everyone together into one room and we talked about the problem. Pretty much we resolved it.
I think the thing, and I'm really interested, Sandeep, on you because you're in a very commercial space. To me, a partnership, everyone's got to win. There can't be one person wins and the other person fails or doesn't win. Everyone's got to win for both parties to feel the success of it and to want to continue it. So how does that work in a highly commercial environment?
Well, each of them set a boundaries.
Of course.
One is very important. And second thing is you definitely need to understand what you are and where you're heading in terms of building something. Because when I work with multi-corporates, so when 2 companies, so there's a company that we worked with as a Fortune 25 company, when they start merging with, because when a company tries to enter into subcontinents, they start acquiring companies to make sure that their vision gets exceeded in their subcontinent. So when they started partnering with the companies like them, they can't really see everything. One thing they've understood is either I have to have a people who can run the company in this entire organization, like how this is how the companies work. And it is also about the belief system that the company has. So belief system and the shared vision play a very important role. More than that, the consequences.
See, a lot of people wouldn't think of that. They'd think of just the dollar, a transactional relationship.
No, as I rightly said,
Yes.
when you start excelling yourself in your field, when you need more people inside your room, your thought process changes.
Mm.
Your thought process definitely changes because there's a saying that you cannot do things alone in a fast manner. You need a room of people involved to make things faster because world is a very complex place.
Yeah.
You can't do things alone.
And we are so used to work in silos. It's
Yeah.
just our thing. It pretty much works in silo.
Yeah. Amazing. I want to just duck back quickly to something that you said earlier that I thought was really interesting, and it's about sometimes it's like the person who the CEO or the lead person you think is the one you need to make a decision with, but how do you get there? And something we again talk about in class a bit is this idea of look to the left. In terms of you generally the important people have someone to their left that's going to be much more accessible and often ignored. So they're going to be in the room bored and ignored. So if you build a relationship with them and you build trust with them, they're an easier person to build with. It's not as scary to build that relationship, but they're going to have the ear of the person to their right who is the influencer.
That is such great advice. I also believe be very nice to people who manage receptions.
Yes.
And also waiters and bar people. But that's an aside. That's just a life lesson. But you're absolutely right. It's the other people in the room who can be your best ally. And again, they're the ones that when you're not in the room, they'll speak up.
Correct.
And speak toward you and for you. So it's about getting those allies or ambassadors in the room.
Yeah. And I think it's, there's that age-old saying of it's not what you know, it's who you know. I actually think there's a piece missing to that. It's not what you know. It's not who you know. It's who knows you and who remembers you.
Correct.
True.
That's what really makes a difference.
And I make a really good elevated pitch whenever I go into a room because that's how people remember you. If you know what you're talking about, having its own elevated pitch, like pretty much you're doing cold calling, isn't it? You're trying to make a sale. And you just go in and you do a really good impact-led elevated pitch, and you talk a lot about systems and how you did analysis about the system and what are the gaps in system. You do a lot of gap analysis in your work. And you go in there, you talk and put the right words.
So that's all to reputation, isn't it?
Yes.
It's about reputation, and it's about I worked in radio for many years, and there was some people who would sell airtime on radio, and they'd book them. We'd call it book them and burn them. So as long as you get the money in, then you don't care about them. But that's not sustainable. What is sustainable is about building that relationship so that everyone gets a lot more out of it, and it's the long term. You're looking at the long term.
Okay. I think it's a really good segue in terms of that whole idea of like there's transactional partnerships and then there's relationship partnerships that go on. Because sometimes you're doing a deal and you might need a partnership to do a particular event. You might need a sponsor for an event you're putting on, possibly in your world, or you're doing a small
in my
campaign.
world all the time.
Yeah. So like they're partnerships, but they are very much a finite kind of transactional type thing that sometimes people forget that there's still people behind this deal, and there might be a relationship still needs to be built because of a future transaction. It's not, okay, this is just, book them and burn them. It is, how do we build that relationship for not just this one transactional partnership that who knows where they're going to be next?
Absolutely. That comes around so often in my life where somebody who I'd been involved with years ago had done something with suddenly pops up, and then you see that you've got a shared or a common imperative, and you go, oh, hey, hello, how about we do this?
Yep.
But that's because relationships, they don't last 5 minutes. They last a lifetime.
Correct.
Yeah. So if we move beyond the, we've sort of planted some seeds, we may have sort of got some ideas here to help us sort of open those doors and start the partnership. Let's kind of jump to the end. Like, how do we know when a partnership's kind of coming to its end? How do we navigate the end of a partnership? Is there anything that we've experienced around how do we, maybe we've been on the back end of someone exiting a partnership poorly and we go, well, we wouldn't want to do that again?
I think the only risk in our sector is people shifting roles.
Yep.
Once we have a really good
So let me just unpack that really quickly. So you're partnering with as a local council with someone else, and you're getting things moving, and then the person leaves, and the partnership breaks down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the time, because it's all on the person's shoulders, because they are leading every conversation. They're getting into the room way ahead so that they can lead opportunities way earlier.
Yep.
And once the person leaves, all of a sudden the work is fall behind, and they go back another year to. If you even replace, the partnership is still in place, the organization is still in partnership. But even you have another person come in, it takes time. The champion leaves who actually initiated the work. It takes another 6 to 8 months to get them back into the board and trying to explain to them. And they have to bring the same vision and the curiosity and kind of
passion.
Passion.
So how do you solve for that? Have you got a framework or a strategy to solve for that, where it's like, okay, you're trying to build a relationship with people to kind of know where they're going, so you know that they may be leaving and you better start building a new bridge? Or are you always thinking about, I've got to make sure I have a relationship with the 2IC or other people and make the other people on the outside of this team feel loved and have a relationship with me, so when the champion leaves and that person steps in, they don't forget about you, or they don't want to set their own agenda and kind of, change project preferences or anything?
I think in my mind, you need to make the partnership robust enough that it exists beyond the people in the room.
Yeah.
So I like to think that if we can build a partnership, that it doesn't matter if I'm in the room or not, or the person my main champion isn't there either, that it's a good partnership. Both sides are winning from it, that whoever comes into the role next would be crazy not to continue it.
Yeah.
So it's about building a good enough or solid enough relationship.
Is that things like obviously starting with understanding the strategic alignment, so you can kind of keep tying into that? Are you like documenting in contracts? Are you evidencing stuff as much as possible, whether you're leaning on each other to go, let's evidence these outcomes in blog posts or Instagram stories? So there's so much evidence in the world and reporting on it. So that way there's so much evidence out there that it's like, this is beyond a relationship, that it's documented. There's third-party kind of evidence that, this is beyond
for
us.
me, I guess I do a lot of infographic wins. Like whenever I do a quarterly win infographic for myself. It's not for anyone. But when I leave the organization, I do tend to give that out to the next person who comes in. But the infographic wins is if I have made a partnership with different organizations, I put their logos in, I created a partnership, and what kind of project I created out of them. I love it because it gives me a boost to get up and work next day.
That's such a good thing to do.
It also generates a lot of creativity for myself. I love doing a lot of stuff in Canva, and I tend to showcase my work within my reporting lines to my CEO, like, see what I did. So it's just kind of like it gives you a moral boost of work. And also,
I can do a lot of that sort of stuff.
It's like it doesn't have to take a lot of time. And also someone reading it or someone looking at it, they don't have to feel like I have to I have to read a huge report.
Yeah.
It's very easy if I just
time.
Showcasing, okay, I brought together and these are the strategies or the ideas that have implemented it. It has helped me a lot. And I've been doing it from 6-7 years already.
That's a good habit.
Externally it works in a different way. Global companies in the recent periods have began implementing the end of partnership exit model in their agreements as well, to understand how are they going to end the partnership. But being a founder or being a company CEO, it's always tough to end a partnership. It breaks down a lot of things. Externally, although it changes a lot of things, internally, operating wise as well, it changes a lot of things. So there are 3 things that that gives us a sign of where the partnership ends. 1, if you see a blurred vision of the other founder, other partner, if you don't have a vision of what other partner is doing, the partnership's going to end. 2nd, if there's a silence in communication, partnership's going to end. 3rd, if you feel bad about their consequences, but not just being curious and solving them, the partnership's going to end. And that's where majority of founders of startups, they come with a lot of aspirations of having partners around into multiple domains, but they don't usually understand that these consequences are going to happen in a months and periods of time.
So it's almost continually doing that sort of asset order, sort of that strategic alignment piece to make sure that as the partnership continues on, there is that alignment. It's having those conversations, those check-ins, not just the deliverables, but also how's this working? How do we keep improving it? Kind of watering the seed that's already been planted.
And it's almost like building the relationship not so that you're the champion comes to you and says, oh, isn't it all great? But so you've got a good enough relationship that they're going to tell you when it's not.
Yes.
And when they're hearing whispers that it's not.
Yeah.
So that you can hear that quick enough to either pivot, change, modify, realign, report, do all of those things to try and save it. But ultimately, and we all know this, sometimes partnerships just end.
And
It's no one's fault, totally. And it's all also the power imbalance, and the people
Yeah, I
don't
think
want to
that's-
exchange
yeah.
a lot of their power, and there is
Yeah.
no shared accountability. And also, as I totally agree with Sandeep, it's just more about shared vision.
Yep.
It's not there anymore. And if when a partnership ends, it ends.
Yep.
But it's not like it's ending forever. They'll come around another way
Yep.
to succeed in sort of. And you have to wait until the restructure has happened. Everything is back to
the new
back to
funding
normal,
has
new
come
funding
in.
has come, and you go back and you do the same thing again. You restart, and you never lose hope.
Yeah, and I think it kind of that touches on a few things that have been said in terms of if people in partnerships change, it's inevitable that the new people are going to want to put a stamp on it, and it's not necessarily a political thing or a power play thing. Sometimes it can be, but quite often it's like they just want to make a stamp for themselves, or they've got their own ideas to implement.
Yeah.
And you can't be offended by a partnership changing. Don't take it personal. It could just be this person has their own vision and they're trying to build their own career on the other side of the table, and they're trying to do their own implementation that you might be shrapnel.
And sometimes a lot of commitments too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of organizations have too many commitments in place. They're just not ready for a partnership. As you started with, are they ready for a partnership? Because when I do desktop research, I would know I would look into their annual report before I go in, because I know how much they spent on what things.
Yep.
Then I'll think about, okay, that's where they are at. If I can go and come with a really better solution to have a mutual benefit, that's how I would start.
Yeah,
That's a really good point.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So in terms of partnerships, anybody got any case studies of interesting partnerships they've actually put together that it might be interesting to unpack and sort of say, here's some of the interesting nuance of how we pulled this off, or how we stopped it going sour, or anything in between?
I guess the best example I would give is my current role with City of Greater Geelong. It took me 2 years to form that partnership.
Okay.
And I knocked every single door. I've knocked councillors' doors, I knocked a mayor door, I knocked every single leadership door, and also operations staff, of course. It took me 2 years because they had a restructure and they lost a big portfolio of people. And all of a sudden, there was no one doing a lot of outreach or engagement from City Council, and City was not doing a lot in that priority community space. So when I understood, because the person who was working with me left, and I took it to heart, because we had so many plans together to deliver things, because the partnership was between two people, not the two organizations. Then I went ahead and a little bit, for what's funny, I tried to make the council to have a portfolio for themselves, to hire someone.
Okay.
But next year, totally pivoted to a different strategy. I talked more about how do we both organizations come together to do a partnership. Then we developed a service agreement. We looked into what the role would look like, what are the needs, and we did a huge audit internally for City of Greater Geelong, where the areas that need to be improved, or if they have a role inside, how does it look like? So I created a job for myself through that. So I think it's a long-lasting partnership if you look at it, in knocking doors and trying to, create value and explain to them why it is important as a council for them to have a portfolio for priority community groups.
Yes.
And it could be looking at it in a consulting point of view, or just any contractor point of view, but the work is still happening, and it's a successful work.
Yeah.
And they can have that sustainability ongoing, and it's a good reputational representation as well for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good positioning. Amazing.
And in my experience of working with multiple brands, in the brand world, they call it as a co-branded partnership. Two brands coming together, doing something well. So when I was in the process of writing my own book, I began understanding the Starbucks and Spotify came to an agreement. I don't know, no one heard about it. So we have understood that Starbucks and Spotify came to an agreement. Spotify gives out their entire songs to Starbucks to play inside the store. And in return, Starbucks gives them a subscription access of 1 million user base, 10 million users. With that partnership, Spotify was able to increase their revenue by 26%. As I've been saying, we use this methodology in most of our brands when we're doing a lot of mergers and acquisitions. A lot of regional brands want to partner with other brand, like a toothpaste brand want to partner with a brush brand. A partnership works. So, in the process of understanding partnerships, we have realized commercial world, plays a very, commercial world acts a little different because they will have a shared vision but not identical products. But those two brands with the same product will not move forward for a very longer time.
Very interesting. Just
Yeah.
one very random story that just popped into my mind when you talked about the Starbucks and Spotify scenario. There's an Australian-based company that works with retail outlets to figure out what music increases revenue.
Oh.
And Ed Sheeran sells more
Oh, really?
sundaes and desserts in British fast food restaurants than any other artist.
Wow.
So
Oh,
it's an
really?
Australian-based company that they
Nice.
connect their point of sale system to the music to reconcile what sort of music in different venues and restaurants and retailers actually increase revenue.
Data
Back to data.
data.
It's
It's
a very
all
random
yeah,
story that
all
you just
back to
mentioned.
data.
I've got to
I
share
don't know
that
if you
one, so I find
guys
it
know
fantastic.
this, a partnership of Royal Melbourne Hospital.
Okay.
I don't know. You guys don't know?
Huh?
Who do they partner
Okay,
with?
so Royal Melbourne Hospital have been researching on AI-assisted radiology from the last 4-5 years.
Sure.
They went on to a partnership with University of Melbourne and IBM. The project, which was supposed to finish in 5 years, it got done in 18 months. A right partnership with the right people can actually decrease your time. As I said in the first time, you need more complex scenarios to actually accomplish more faster than ever. For that, you not just need the right partnerships, but also the people who can actually take it forward.
Absolutely.
And I guess like one that I'm working on at the moment and that we've been having some conversations with Deakin about as well is with Wheelchair Sport Victoria, which is it is what it says on the can. It's about wheelchair sport across Victoria. And it's something that we've taken on board to be a part of Wheelchair Sport Australia. But when we looked at who would be good partners, we looked at where are the research opportunities, for example, with this cohort of people? Where are the sporting opportunities? Where do these people come from? Where are the rehabilitation centres, the hospitals, or whoever that is specifically, mentioned, like that connection was really good. If you can find the right partner, then it's like the magic happens. And you don't have to work that hard. I mean, you do. Work hard for my money. But do you know what I mean? It's
understanding the ecosystem. Like
exactly.
it's quite diverse, the ecosystem itself, like where we work. And I think it took me so much time to understand how Australia works itself, because there's a lot bits and pieces and niches that you can't usually see from, say, Nick and I. You have to go in and be in the room where there were like strong conversation happening, then understand the ecosystem.
And it's a wrong thing to do is to make the assumption that we all think the same. And you would know, like Sandeep, because you actually show people how to do business in India. And it's like, you're right, like how we do business in Australia is very different to there or anywhere else in the world. So,
I mean, doing business have been changing over a period of time. And let me tell you, doing a business in a country like India is very tough. Global brands have not been able to achieve because they can't go all in alone in a market where it's a 1.4 billion people. And that is the reason why Starbucks couldn't able to accomplish in China. There's a Look in Coffee, guys, Look in Coffee? I was there in China last October. Look in Coffee is the one that has surpassed Starbucks in just 3 months with 3,000 stores.
wow.
They know the market, they know the customer, they know the trust pattern. If Starbucks would have partnered with a Chinese-based company or a local-based company, they would have fastened their expansion process. And Spotify have done it brilliantly in Indian market. So as I said, global alliances work very strongly when they partner with a regional member. So there's a cultural fit involved, there's a cultural shared involved, there's a balance of ideologies from different cultures. For example, Nissan and Renault. If you guys know, so Nissan, Renault have invested in Nissan in 1999. So they come from a Japanese and European background. When two brands come together from different backgrounds, different diversified cultural backgrounds, you get a lot of consequences happening because your customers are different, your ideologies are different, your internal operating principles are different. Because we get to have a lot of brands coming in on a day-to-day basis. Agreements wise, you have multiple cultures involved, but it doesn't work that way. Consumers need a trusted decision pattern. And that is how the global partnerships are working.
No, even for me, I guess right now I'm looking into how do I bring community sector and commercial sector together. Like when I say commercial, it's more about manufacturing. it's just my husband works in manufacturing. I am getting to know about manufacturing sector day by day. It is quite interesting space to create employment and opportunities for people. And we are supporting those programs. We are creating those opportunities for our clients. It's a good opportunity to create those partnerships and build from there, which is not quite happening right now. So that's something I'm working on.
Amazing.
So cool.
So let me pivot to some bit of Q&A. We've got about 20 minutes or so left of today's session. And obviously we've got a fantastic audience tuning in and we've got some great questions coming through here. So as much as we could probably keep chit-chatting for hours on this sort of stuff, let's turn to the people who are watching along at home and providing some questions. So if you haven't put in your question yet, please make sure you do and I'll work through the iPad and share some of these things. So one of the questions we have here is, how can an introvert break their habits and network effectively? So we're going to throw back to something we spoke about a while ago in terms of if you are, getting back out there and trying to build these relationships. As an introvert, what are some tactical ideas of how you can get that confidence of being uncomfortable?
So
An introvert can be a good listener.
of course,
Yep.
they are.
I mean, so in the art of networking, there's a saying that the great listeners play a very great networking.
Yeah.
Introverts can be a great listeners as well. You speak less, listen more.
You hear more.
You hear more. Yeah.
Mhm.
You learn more.
Yeah.
At least like initially, I am an introvert. I would call myself an introvert because after work, I just want to go and cozy sit. Don't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
But when I started in my career, it was quite hard for me because I had so much nervousness getting into a room.
Yep.
There's plenty of people. I'm pretty sure I felt like everyone was judging me. And that kind of space when I started listening more than sharing my perspectives, I still feel uncomfortable sharing a lot of things. But being in a room where it challenges you, I think for introverts, it's a really uncomfortable situation. But going in and doing things that, that gives you an opportunity,
Yep.
I guess that have created a lot of, knowledge for me, I guess, in sense. Just going in and trying to listen, as Sandeep
Yep.
said, and then build from there.
Yep.
Once you get the conference, start like small talk.
Yeah.
Australia is all about small talk. They love doing small talk. So
Yep.
start with small talks. Talk about yourself a lot, not about the organization you are representing for. Talk about what
I
you
would
bring.
almost argue that, like, from a small talk perspective, things that what I talk about to students when I do have the opportunity to talk about this is, don't talk about you. Talk about the food. And it sounds really weird. It's like if you go to a networking event and you're really nervous, stand near the food or the drinks and comment on that to something, because that's such an easy icebreaker. Oh, that dessert looks really nice, or my grandma used to make that sort of stuff. Just a silly offhand comment can be such an easy way to kind of just start a hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think sometimes I can be the target of people wanting to network with me. And I just, trying to do small talk and not be authentic is just, it's like it nearly kills you. But it is, you're right in the idea of like, just listen to what's going on, listen to who's talking to what, and look who's in the room. And then later, maybe go on LinkedIn and reach out and say, oh, hi, I saw you at the event.
Yeah.
I didn't get to have a chat, but I think, what you're doing is really interesting, but not trying to oversell yourself. And I think, I'm not an introvert, so I've not been in that situation before, but I think there is nothing worse than compensating for yourself. Love the talk about the food, talk about the footy, obviously, if you're in Melbourne. That's always a good one, or local sport.
I
Or
also had more
Arsenal?
about cultural kind of things. When I speak to someone loves small talk, someone really loves a long conversation. Talking to the right, the person, whoever you're talking to, and understanding what kind of conversation they would be
Yes.
looking into have helped me a lot, because I understand sometimes when you do a small talk and people you can't get the attention and right away they shift to someone else, that definitely feels bad.
Yeah.
But you understand for the next time you would have a better conversation with that same person, because you'll definitely see that person in another room. For
And
sure.
I think the thing too is if you're picking the event you're going to, I think for a lot of introverts, it's like if you're going to a networking event, just remember the context of the room.
Oh, of course.
Correct.
Like, the context of the room is everyone's there to
Read the
meet
room.
and to network.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
So even just going up to someone with a simple script of, hi, I'm Pete, I don't think we've met yet. Just like, hi, I'm Pete, I don't think we've met yet. Like, that's such an easy way, because you haven't. It's a very easy statement to say. You're not going to fumble over your words. It's not scary, but well, of course you haven't met yet. And it's like, yes, we haven't. Let's have a chit chat.
Yeah.
Like that's the way I'd be approaching those sort of rooms.
Mm.
Just remember that everyone's there.
Mhm.
Yes, half the room might know each other if you go
Exactly.
to a chamber event or a marketing community event or whatever it might be. There might be a bunch of people who already know each other, but that's good because they'll introduce you if you go and say, hi, it's my first time here. I don't think we've met yet.
Mm.
That's a simple script that people can use if they're an introvert.
Love that.
Well, there's also an elevator pitch when you
Oh,
go for a
yeah.
networking
Yeah.
event.
Yes.
Create
How
one
I
for
do
yourself.
I do it in a different manner. Maybe for an example. So there's always saying that first 5-6 seconds is where people start asking you questions.
Yeah.
And I don't go ahead and say I'm a founder of Magsmen. I say if you're a guy, to all the kings and queens inside the room, I'm a kingmaker.
Mm.
And when they start asking questions,
A kingmaker.
the curiosity of building multiple questions
I
starts with
totally
your one
want to meet
statement.
Sandeep.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, another question that's come in to sort of pivot around a lot of the things we've covered today is how can you collaborate with an organization who don't have a dedicated partnerships team or person to drive that engagement and deliver impact? How do you kind of structure that or frame that or approach that when an organization might be small or doesn't have a partnerships team with the label on LinkedIn?
So in ideal world, I really wish everyone got a partnership role. Then more jobs and more opportunities for people like us. But also talking about if you look into everyone's single PDs, partnership or stakeholder engagement is like a key thing. It's part of every single PD. Every single organization, when they work mainly in our sectors, they have included stakeholder engagement and partnerships. Even they don't have a particular team, that person, whoever you're targeting, would have a portfolio of somewhere or the other, either direct link or indirect link of a partnership space. If he or her is not the right person, they'll pivot to or take you on board into the conversation. It's that always going with an open mind have helped me a lot. Just going in saying, I don't know if you're the right person,
Yeah.
but can we
I think that's
have
Great
this
script. Like
Yeah.
I'm a big believer
conversation?
in scripts. Like I
Yeah.
don't know if you're the right person, but you might be able to help me or you might be able to
Yeah.
point me in the right direction.
Yes.
That's a great way. People like
Absolutely.
to help.
And even they say no,
Absolutely.
that's totally fine as well. You go to another person in the same organization. It works.
Love that.
And I think if you've got something that's compelling, that is aligned to that organisation because you've done your research, you know their strategic intent, if you've got that right, then they'll feel good because they can take some of the gloss for why they've introduced this person into their organisation.
Every organization's got goals and
Yeah.
objectives. And
Yep.
if you can help align towards their objectives, it doesn't have to be a partnership title to want to achieve their KPIs.
Absolutely.
Same as an interview. Like if you're going to an interview, you would research about the person you're talking about, and you go to their LinkedIn and kind of you're stalking.
Stalk. Yeah,
I
a
do
little
the
bit of
same thing. I go and stalk before I meet the person. Like it's easier when we start a conversation about their achievements and then you get them on board, and it all works in a positive way.
Yep, love that. So, how do we build a long-term partnership outside of one-off collaborations? I'm struggling to build long-term relationships with community groups even after successful collaboration. So it's kind of hard to unpack this in a chat message, but I do love these questions coming in. So how do we?
I do.
How do we?
I'll give you.
that?
Try.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I think initially every partnership starts off a lot smaller than where you'd really want it to go to. It's rare that the first interaction you have is going to be that long-term relationship.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be something where both of you can test the water and make sure that you're both aligned and you want to achieve the same sort of things. I think when it comes to it being then a long-term relationship, it is about knowing that both organisations or businesses or whatever they are do have those shared strategic goals. And it doesn't mean that Leisure Networks, for example, has the same shared goal as Deakin University. Quite the opposite, we don't. We're two different entities.
Okay.
But we still have a passion for inclusion, for activity, for sport involvement, for all of the things that then we can connect with. So I think if you get those right, you've got a better opportunity for it to be long-term. But
Those checking conversations we had earlier as well.
Yeah, that's it, Pete. Like really building on that.
Yeah. I also think in terms of conversations, don't keep the conversation solely locked in on that partnership project. What else are you working on? What else is happening across the organization? because that kind of, again, helps
Exploring,
that ongoing asset audit to figure out, well, okay, well, here's where we can go next, or here's how we can continue to pivot this a little bit to be aligned with that new thing you're trying to work on.
Another thing I think is really important that helps build the long term is as soon as somebody's a partner, they are a stakeholder.
Correct.
They are as invested in your company or organisation as anybody else, and you take them along with your journey. So as you said, Pete, you don't necessarily have to be talking about that, the partnership you have with them, but tell them about the other things you're doing. Invite them to the
events and stuff.
Invite them to be involved.
Yep.
Keep them updated, and you never know, A, where that person might go next or what they might have in their mind.
Yeah. Amazing.
And if it's there, or if the question is about more community groups and not talking to the community directly, so from my experience working with more than 55 cultural community groups, and we have such a good affiliations and incorporations in place, one of the things is not every community group has strong leaders in it. Some are led by people.
Yeah.
And knowing which community group are you targeting is really important. Like if I say we have emerging community groups, I mean, we have established community groups. If I'm talking to a Croatian community group, they are totally different because they have strong leaders in place. If I'm talking about an emerging community group, like for say Afghanistan or someone from Syrian, they are still learning or getting their feet up. So they come as a community. They come with different perspectives and the knowledge and things like that. So partnering with them to deliver things is way different. So knowing about, and again, doing a lot of research before you're going about the culture and talking more in a cultural safety perspective rather than talking in a say, okay, I am aware you're a cultural group, and more in a lot of organizations tick a box and having the cultural awareness training done. But it's more going in a more cultural safety perspective and giving them an opportunity to talk about what is right and what is wrong for them. That have changed a whole lot for me in that partnership game, I guess. Yeah.
I love that. And you said something early in that as well around organizations led by people.
Yeah, of
So
course.
as much as we're trying to align with the organization's objectives and their strategic plan, we also have to think about how can we support the people in their roles? What are their individual goals? Are they wanting to try and just solve this problem and then move on because it's a community organization and they're busy being a mum and a partner and whatever else it might be?
Yeah.
Or is it they're trying to get their own career goals? And so how can you also not just align with the organization, but how can you align and support the people so they'll want to continue to be in collaboration with you because you're a champion of them individually, not just their organization?
That is relationship 101, isn't it? And that's authentic, it's meaningful, that's the sort of thing that builds partnerships.
I think it's a bit of maturity too, because I think, depending on where you are in your own career, sometimes like in your early 20s, you get in your job, you want to make a name for yourself, and understandably ego's there. It's like, how do you mature through that and go, do you know what? I'm going to be better off by actually championing that other person.
Yes, yeah.
Stepping back a little bit and letting that person take the credit.
Absolutely.
And the relationship's going to allow me to grow, not I need all the credit. It's like, that's a hard maturity thing to get through.
I think it is, but I think, yes, it is, but when you get there, it's the best.
Yeah.
Because to me, if I think about our partners, like we've got a great partnership with TAC. And at the moment, it's National Road Safety Awareness Week. I'll give that a plug. Take the pledge, by the way. But we're doing some really awesome stuff with them. And I know that our champion in the TAC is really proud of what we're doing. And I love that she is getting kudos for creating such a great partnership.
Interesting.
And that to me is like, oh my God, that's the best.
Amazing.
That's everyone wins.
It is. And I think on that note, with everyone winning, we only have a few minutes left. So let's quickly, what's the big takeaway that we got from this or we want to share, we want to leave the audience with? You can choose how you want to take your next 30 seconds, but what's sort of the seed that people can take away and plant in their own careers after this?
I think don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
I have failed multiple times, I think 1,000 times, to be frank. And I am very proud to talk about my failures because that's how I learn. I've been in places where I know it's going to fail, but I still try to make it a success. So I came here to Australia when I was 20, and I had zero knowledge what Australia is about and how to survive here. And I started just with a voluntary role. And I never imagined my LinkedIn would be that big, or I'll keep on posting. And I turned my LinkedIn as just like an Instagram. I'd scroll every single day, know about what's happening in others' careers, because it's a good opportunity to learn about what they're planning to do in future. So it's always good to be on track and understanding where you are at and learning from your failures. And if there is success, celebrate it. Like, you always have to celebrate your success.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the biggest learning a colleague gave me when I was leaving my previous job was, don't undersell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have achieved so much. And it's a cultural thing that you don't recognize your own wins. And I think when I got that advice, the first thing I started to think about is, what have I achieved?
Yeah.
Like, it's been like 6 years. What haven't I achieved?
Well, those personal infographics are going to
Then
help
when I
that.
started talking in networks, not only I upskilled the visibility of my organization, I also talked about a lot of wins that I've made within that organization or throughout my career that have helped me to, achieve a lot of things where I'm at. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I would
Love
give
that.
to anyone.
Sandeep.
I mean, in my experience of working with and investing in a lot of brands, I always tell them 3 things. 1, alone we can do so little, together we can do a lot of things. 2nd, get ready. I mean, get into a partnership only when you're ready. You don't have to jump in so fast because you have a lot of time. Make sure that your ideology and the intent matches with the person coming in. 3rd, I always believe in learning something always, earning and then returning it back. As founders, as entrepreneurs, as employers, as employees, if we start learning, then start earning, let's start returning it back, giving it back. And that is where we can actually help a lot of people build a great partnerships in the longer term.
Fantastic. Roxy.
I think for me, if I was to leave any kind of message, it would be to say, be authentic and be who you are. Show your passion. And if you can show your passion, that person who you're trying to build the partnership with, they'll come on board with you. But show your passion and believe in it. And then always behave respectfully, ethically, and in the best way that you can as a human, because you never know who's making a decision about you or your organisation in a room you'll never know about. And if you always do that, and I suppose that's with anything with life, but in relation to partnerships, those decisions are made when you're not there.
Correct.
So do that, and that'll stand you in good stead just as a human in our world.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Samira, Sandeep, Roxy, thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully there was a whole range of nuggets and seeds everyone can take away from today's conversation.
Taken away heaps.
Yeah, I've taken a lot.
Brilliant. That's what we want. So thank you everyone for tuning in for day 4. Don't forget, tomorrow is day 5 of Level Up here with Deakin University. And let me just make sure I get exactly what tomorrow's topic is all about. Energy and health, a career that goes the distance. So in terms of having the energy to get through a work day and then make it to the networking event at night, maybe it's going to be a great session to follow up with tomorrow to kind of get that energy to go all the way. So thank you so much. Make sure you check out tomorrow's session, and the replays will be up in a week or 2, I believe. So check out your emails. I'm sure the Deakin alumni team are going to get that in your inbox. So if you today was your first session, make sure you come tomorrow and check out the replays for the first 3. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for watching, and we'll hopefully see you all tomorrow.